Happens every time.
Every time.
Good morning, everyone. And I am 13 years old again because my voice just cracked. Did you hear that? Excuse me.
It was your Friday morning crack. That's all.
Coming into my own. This episode is a coming of age episode. Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Most important seconds. Go ahead.
Where we discuss Ricardo's coming of age story.
Yes.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
It all started back when welcome back, everyone. We're here for Most Important Seconds after the Pit, where we recap and break down episodes of the Pit. This is season 2 that is streaming currently on HBO Max, but the episode that we're breaking down today is episode 11, which is running 5 p.m. or 1700 for anybody on our side of the scope.
That's right.
So we are currently live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram, both sides, and Facebook, both sides. So holy moly, we've got a lot that we are broadcasting out to. And as always, Keely, if you can run us through a quick summary for anyone who might be joining who doesn't know what Most Important Seconds is all about.
What we're doing here. Why are we live in 100 different places?
Right.
So, hey, everybody, I'm Keely with Rapid SOS. I'm on the marketing team here, and we had a really great opportunity to sponsor an event held at Allegheny General Hospital, where the Pit itself is designed after, which it's actually based off of that ER there, ED, depending on which side of the spectrum, ER, ED. I feel like I'm an old schooler, so it's an ER. I think present day it's an ED. I don't know. But we get to go through and connect we were there to sponsor an event that was to give back to the first responder community, from all the way from dispatch all the way through all the hospital healthcare heroes that were there that day. And we got to spend the entire day with them. It started at about 7:30 in the morning. We got to see everybody who was either just coming off shift or going on shift. And then at the end of the night, we got to see a special premiere of episode 2, season 2, before it had actually went live for streaming. And it was just such an amazing event to be able to be present with everybody there, like-minded human beings that are watching the chaos that is emergency response and be in it together. And that's what we did. We spent an entire day, and then you, my friend, were in Butler County up the road, which Butler County is where the president had been shot at. So they had their own experience this past year. So we got to spend some time with them and what that was like. And regardless of political sides, it's not what we're talking about here, but we're talking about what happens in an emergency to those systems when something of that nature, and you're talking about, that's a major event, right? And so, like, what happens to the system, what happens with the technology that they have, and then what happens as it goes all the way through the chain of response. So that's what this all was about, is supporting those people and giving back. It was great.
Yeah, and you can just imagine the amount of chaos and everything that probably happened during that event as well. And when I was in there and we were recording a few things, they were telling me a little bit about it, and I kept thinking, we need to get you on a podcast to talk about this a little more in depth, because just again, just the breakdown communication, the chaos, everything that's going on there, the amount of calls that are coming in and everything, you can just imagine also in comparison to a lot of these episodes, or just even the show in general, the chaos, even though it might be what we like to call controlled chaos, it's still chaos. and
Right.
you have to figure out how to triage and go through everything. So there's definitely a lot of comparisons that can be made between the stuff that happens at the hospital, the show, and then 911 as well, as connecting technology and everything. But also while we were there at Butler County in the dispatch center, they were, adding a lot of new technology, which comes from Rapid SOS as well, and transcriptions, language translations, like all of these different things. I had the opportunity to put my Spanish skills to test and to good use by recording a segment for how it worked and everything. So they had, one of their dispatchers answer a call. I called in, I'm speaking in Spanish and they're bringing it up. The, voice is coming back. So it was really cool to do a lot of that stuff. And then we were there long enough that they had we had catered pizza in for everyone. I don't remember how many boxes, but we could have like taken a dip, like screwed in his that's how much pizza it seemed like where it was there. And I remember we took a box. So one of the guys that was there with us, who was on the camera, doing all the camera work, who's phenomenal at what he does, we snagged a box of pizza, and that box went with us from the dispatch center all the way throughout the rest of the night. It was sitting in the car, and, I think you sat next to the box
I got in the car
end of
and
the night.
I had not eaten all day because we were so busy that day with all of the people visiting our booth and coming to talk to us and watching the 13 seconds video. And people were just coming up and like, what do you guys do? What is this about? And they just wanted to learn more. And I remember like, oh, we had a system failure. Verizon went down. I think there was an outage.
Oh, that's right.
So
We couldn't even talk to each other.
we couldn't talk to our teams that were in Butler County. So here we are in the hospital. It's me and Sue Webster, God love her. And we're like, we had not gotten a chance to get away. We were just, it was so packed. There were so many people. And then we get in the car that night and I sit down and there's a pizza box. And I was like, oh, you had pizza. I was so sad, but we were on our way to dinner, so it was okay. But I was like, at this point, I was like, but this is something that happens, right? Like in emergency services, how many times did you go like all day without
Right.
a bite of food? Or like, when's the last time I drank something like, and not an energy drink or like something caffeinated? Like, when's the last time I just had water?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like that was like, normal behavior for us, but
Yeah, more comparisons there as well, because it's either you are waiting to eat, you've microwaved something so many times that it's probably alive now because of the radiation, or you're holding it like squirrel mode in your cheek forever, and then you go to eat it and you're like, "Ugh," like, "Why?" Like, "I can't do this." But
it's weird.
yeah, so there were a lot of cool moments and everything throughout that time, the preparation, all of it going into it. It was so, so awesome. So again, a big thanks to Rapid SOS for inviting us out and being able to take part in that. But yeah, you could have had some backseat pizza if you wanted,
You
because
could have.
it had and it was cold enough that I'm sure it was fine. there was
Listen,
there would have been no food poisoning.
I am only about 4 miles to Rutgers University. Cold pizza is a delicacy around here.
There you go. There you
So
go. So, yeah, from that spawned what we are doing with this live broadcast that we've been doing every week. Because if you don't know, the show is set up to run for, I'm sure it's 15 episodes because it's a 15-hour shift, and it's 1 hour out of out of that day. And that day just happens to be on 4th of July. So you can imagine all of the craziness that is going on, the people that are coming in, the amount of things that we have seen on every episode, especially right off the bat in episode 2, when we were all sitting there, someone had taken several, I'll just say, blue pills, and, they actually showed a lot in
a
what they had
lot.
to do, and we're all like, "What?"
But the the
Yes,
giggle
the
fits in
giggling.
that auditorium was hysterical because it was like we've all seen this. Like
Yeah,
I mean, for those of you that don't know, I come from an EMS background, so this is like it was. We've all seen it. We all know what has to happen, and it was like I'm sure the people in there who maybe never did, which was not a lot because it was a lot of first responders and people who work in the industry, but like dispatchers may not see that, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
and they were there.
Yes, yeah, there were dispatchers there and stuff too, and, I mean, I've seen some stuff, but, and medically and everything too, but as like, just coming from dispatch, no, I have not. So, also sitting there, I was like, "Are they really gonna show this? Oh, they're showing it. Okay."
Oh, they're doing that. They're doing it.
But yeah, the snickering and everything, that was pretty hilarious. So there's so many different things and so many different ways that we've been able to compare a lot of the technology, the way the calls come in, just us kind of imagining how it comes in and piecing it all together to the time that they get to the hospital. So one of the first things I want to bring up from the most recent episodes, it's kind of something that we've talked about before, but I want to bring it up again because we've now gotten to this episode 11. Episode 12 aired last night, but we stagger it so that there's not. But again, we're 11 minutes in. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
we for- we forget to say it in the beginning all the time. Spoiler alert. If you don't know already, now you know. So there's a character that is in this show who has now passed away. Out of all of this time, like Keely and I kept going back and forth because our dispatch brains are going and we're thinking, is there some sort of domestic violence going on? Something like that. Because the husband, the way the wife is, yes, I just saw your message. The way they're talking and everything between the wife and the husband, you start and you see some of the healthcare workers as well trying to piece things together, like what is exactly going on here. Is she really trying to protect him or get away? And then eventually, and I think it's kind of like us as well when we are talking with someone on the phone and the story starts to change, and then you start asking more questions to get the actual thing that's going on when there's someone around, especially if you're doing yes or no questions only. When there's someone there with a caller, you
Yeah.
see that they finally start to make some headway with her and they just realize she's ready to go, and she wants to be there at the hospital, not pass away at home where her kids are going to have to, see and remember that, right? Her husband alone, it sounds like the dude's been doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And what I mean by crazy stuff is just like he's just so dialed in with the family. And I say it in a good way,
Yeah.
that he is kind of breaking apart as well. So for her to not want them to be left with that memory and everything and just want to go there at the hospital, at the same time, it's there's a part where the nurse who's been working with them throughout this whole season, she ends up leaving to go help someone else really quick. And while she's gone is when this character passes away. And when she comes back, she's devastated because she's been there and she wanted to be there. And I was telling Keely, again, we've brought something like this up before, but it's like when we have a lot of those callers who call and you just seem to be like the person who gets that phone call from them all the time. And then they don't call anymore. And eventually you realize it's probably because they passed away or they moved away. Either way, they're gone. A lot of times it's because they passed away. So what are your thoughts, Keely?
Yeah, I know I've talked about it before too. You get used to those calls. Like and every center has them. Whether they are people who are calling because they're lonely or calling because they have hefty medical needs or you know, they're you know, they're living alone and they need assistance with changing the battery in their fire alarm or all of the things and they rely on the 911 system and sometimes I think our patients can get a little lost in that because we're like I don't have time to deal with this person again and I don't have this again and you just get whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, you get used to these callers and you know how to deal with them and you know them by the first like words that come out of their mouth, you know their voice. Or now thanks to Rapid SOS, we can see the number before the phone even rings, right? So like you see it come up and it's like wham and you're like, "Oh no, here comes this caller again." Right? But like you get used to that and then suddenly they stop and you're like, "Hey, has anybody heard from so and so?" And then, like, what's
Yep.
really interesting about us as a dynamic in the room is as much as we might be annoyed with that caller or, you know, maybe like again, we just recently, I was telling Ricardo this earlier. I very recently had gotten a bunch of text messages from my old center and basically telling me that one of our frequent flyers had passed away. And it was all like, everybody was like, so sad. I will tell you, this guy was very difficult, extremely to the core, very difficult. But he was somebody we dealt with all the time. So, like, they realized they hadn't heard from him. So they started looking for him.
Mm.
And that's what I'm saying is it's like, despite the fact that this guy was very difficult, it like the bell goes off when like you don't hear from them. So what's the first thing we do? Well, we better do a welfare check, right? And again, not that we were like, oh, I want to go give this guy a hug and I'm really, it was more like because we care. And
Yeah.
that's why we do the things that we do. And Dr. McKay really cares about her patients. She's probably one of my favorite doctors on the show. And so to see her lose that last moment with her patient that she had been caring for, it hits her to the core. And it's the same thing with us, like the caller that we know has suddenly gone missing, and then we do the welfare check, and then the bad news is that they look through the windows and find that the person is at their breakfast table alone, and like we feel that too. There's
Yeah.
just something about that where it's like it's a little sad sometimes.
Yeah, when she passed and everything, we were just kinda sitting there like, "Oh, man." And Dr. Robbie is looking for her all over the place, and it's it's kind of like us as well when, we're taking calls and we're putting someone on hold to go to the next call. Something might happen in the other one that we might happen to miss, or that maybe one of our coworkers ends up picking up that line and they go through it. And so there's these different comparisons and stuff because Dr. Robbie has now been in there, and you can see that he is, kind of emotional as well with the student, med student who's there as
The
well.
body.
Yes, and she's crying and he's like, go ahead and go. And so yeah, that one hit home. That reminded me of a lot of different things throughout my time in dispatch too, but also, as we're talking about communication and, going back and forth and everything, especially when they start talking to each other, there when he's saying, "I need you here. You're supposed to be here," and she's like, "Well, I'm on the street team, I do this other stuff," and so there's all of these things that are going down, and there's a excuse me, genuine and just common breakdown in communication, and there are consequences to those as well at times. And there are two people right now who are at each other's, well, I wouldn't say at each other's throats. They're trying to get some communication across, but throughout the season, they have not spoken until this episode that we're talking about, where they finally go face to face. And this is uh, Santos and Langdon. And we were saying this right before we started that the that conversation that they're having is one of those difficult conversations that people need to have. And I've said in the past, and you've said the same thing too, that we are masters of communication, but sometimes when it comes to us communicating with each other, it doesn't work.
Oh, we're so bad at it. Like, we are so bad at it, but I think it's a lot of stigma too, right? Like if you're having emotional conversations or you're having difficult conversations, it's like that, put your big girl panties on, man up, that sort of stuff, right?
Mhm.
And I think like we forget that that we're humans too, right? So like maybe we had a bad call, maybe we had a bad day, maybe something happened at home that got us out the door later than we wanted to, and it's kind of tilted our whole world sideways for the day. But like we never vocalize those things. So we never, and when we do, sometimes the environment isn't safe enough for us to say those things. And I on Wednesday, for those of you who are Rapid SOS users and you're inside Rapid SOS community, we just did an episode with Kim Ridgden from Safety Net Consulting. She's actually out of Canada, and she does all of this work around psychologically safe environments and environments that are healthy workplaces. And we talked about this specific thing. It's like, maybe you need the tools to have those conversations. And are we arming our people with that ability? Like, you can't just expect people, it's a learned trait, right? Like, you can't just expect people to know how to talk to each other. We are so used to talking to our callers and keeping our callers calm that we're not really good about doing that face to face, first of all, right? Everything we do is over a phone. It's like keyboard worrying. We could do that, but like when it comes to like taking control in person, that might be a more difficult thing for some of us to do. And then there's also like conversely, have you ever been taught to have a healthy conversation without it being volatile, without it being an attack? So like there's a lot of that happens. And like in this situation, this isn't like a miscommunication between the two of them. There's a situation that had happened in season 1 where Langdon had an addiction problem and Santos basically called it out. Like, she's a student doctor and she doesn't want anybody to get in trouble. So now he's back and she's like, I don't know what to do with this guy because, it's now an awkward situation for her. She had to sound the alarm, like this is happening. And basically his whole world goes upside down because she sounded that alarm, right? So like it's a difficult situation, but these are some of the things that happen and we have difficult situations, but like, are we able to communicate that with each other? Probably not. Probably have to learn how to do that and get the tools to do so.
Yeah, I think it's getting a lot better, and I think that it's meeting each other in the middle. It's what it looks like was happening between them until the ultimatum at the very end, which was admit to everybody what you did, and we'll see where we go from there. And the way he's been, I mean, he admitted to what he did to with one of his patients because he ended up snagging some of that medication, and the dude was like, all right, that's thank you for telling me, it's and yeah, he
Louis.
passed away. Yeah, Louis passed away. But yeah, I feel like also um that gave Langdon that chance before he passed away to make peace in a way
Yeah,
with his patient. So I have a feeling that he might end up doing a version of that, and he and Santos will end up making peace because there's probably going to be something that happens. The way the writing is going and the way she keeps messing up on certain things and her own communication, there's probably going to be because Langdon wants to help her.
he
And
does.
she is, and a lot of times we're the same way in this communication where someone is trying to help you out and you have like these metaphorical headphones on where you're not listening to them. You're just like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, things are good."
Right.
And I feel like that's what's going to end up happening is she's finally gonna take those headphones off and listen, and that'll be when they end up coming together somehow. So, those are my thoughts. I don't know, it's possible, but,
Guys, we are not the script writers.
I
So
know, yeah, we're
there's
not the
this,
script writers, but we could be.
we could be. HBO, if you're listening.
Yeah, we both love to write. Um, so the other thing though that we were talking about here before we went live is that so there's cyber attack, right? They shut everything down so that they can stay away from anything that might happen because of what's going on at a neighboring agency, at a neighboring hospital. There we go. Comparison.
There's the comparison. It's a
Yeah.
neighboring hospital.
Yeah. So there's a breakdown in communication systems, the technology and all, and they're bringing in a bunch of like old school stuff, which we've had to do when systems go down and everything. But one of the things we were talking about is redundancy.
Right. Like, where's the redundancy in the hospital, right? And it's like right now they're waiting for x-rays. they're waiting for reports. They've had to like bring in backup, right? Like they've hired some people to come in from other departments to like go do some running for them, to run them to different directions. There's only so many people you could use for that, especially in the ER that's as busy as this place is, right?
Right, yeah,
So it's like what, and again, we're talking about a hospital level, like, you know, they had to go back to the red phone. They had to go back to, like, I mean, you're talking, they pulled out a whiteboard, like all of the things that like many of us, myself included, can remember working in these types of environments where everything is super analog and super like we need to just, so it's like when you think about that from like a redundancy level, like when something does fail or something goes down, what systems are in place to support, and you know, some of the things that they're doing with next gen, right, is secondary backup facilities or backup centers. um you know, phones go down, rapid SOS still works, right? So you still have that capability because it's not sitting on a fiber line, right? So like you're still going to get the phone calls, but then you have to find out, figure out other ways, like, and if that's real time interoperability where like the neighboring agency is getting the call for you and able to push that call in, and you can see it on your computer in real time and like see what the call is, and then you can work from that direction. So it's like when you think about like the real true need for redundancy, and this is a great example of that. Like they had to immediately go back to, you know, the stone age to figure out how to make this work, but like would there have been other measures in place? And I mean, the other hospital had to fail over to them. They were the redundancy for that other hospital, but now they're down, right? So
mhm,
even like, why is it fair that the other hospital gets to be like, we're out, we're under a cyber attack, everybody's out of here, and then they start getting the failover, but now they're down too. So it's like making sure that your redundant systems aren't sitting on top of each other as well, right? Like we had a number of agencies during the Super Bowl that were working on real time interoperability, but they weren't right in the immediate area. And that makes a lot of sense, right? When you're talking, I mean, fire departments figured this out a long time ago with like mutual aid, right? Like you don't want to deplete the county when something major goes on. We learned that in September 11th, where I mean, I'm as the crow flies, maybe 7 miles to One World Trade, right? So like when that happened, we lost all of our emergency services to that region, right? We have since figured out probably not the best plan, and we figured out, you know, auto aid assignments, mutual aid assignments, and strike teams that come from different areas to be able to help and alleviate that pressure. And it's like seeing this kind of happen in real time. And of course, in a hospital environment, that's so much different, right? Because you can't be transporting patients for an hour to get to where they can. But like, I guess the uniqueness of 911 and first response, like field response, is that you can separate it because of the technology that's available, right? Like you don't have to be sitting in the same county. Is it helpful? Yeah, because you probably understand the structure and the streets and the roads, right? Like, yeah, that makes sense, but it doesn't necessarily have to be built that way anymore. Where once upon a time, you know, I remember we had a failover, and I think you talked about this, like going to another center
yeah.
to go help out that was like right next door, but now like maybe you don't need to do that anymore, you know? So I think it's like really fascinating how far we've come with building in these redundancies and making sure that they're an effective use of everybody's time, effective use of everybody's abilities and their technology for sure.
I sometimes think about those moments where someone would be driving, like, halfway to dispatch, and they would say, "Is our person there yet?" We're like, "No, I think they're, like, halfway here." "Why?" We're like, "We're back. We can't get a hold of them because 'cause they're driving through, like, a rural area." We're like, "Okay, we'll" I don't know, I guess either keep trying to call them or we'll try to call them too, and sometimes they would actually get there because we were in the middle of nowhere too, and they would say, "Where am I gonna set up?" And then we would just kinda smile, they're like, "No." Like, "Yeah, you guys are back up already." Oh, but technology is way, way better now, and, you gotta love it. Gotta be
Yeah.
kinda jealous of it sometimes too,
God, I
but
am so like I was very lucky because I had actually had Rapid SOS since like 2020, like early on
uh-huh.
2021. I had it early on, and that I will never forget that day just sitting in my office and realizing the phones hadn't rung in a while. And I was like, weird. And I just like walked out on the floor and I was like, hey guys, when is the last time your phones rang? And like the color on everybody's faces were like, and then like I think the supervisor on the floor was like, "Oh, that's a Rapid SOS call," and I was like, "Okay, call that caller back, see what's going on." And to be fair, in that moment, like nothing changed for us. Once we
Yeah,
realized we were down and we could get the cell phone calls, and again, we're in a time where that makes sense, right? Like landline calls, maybe not. I mean, actually, now some of those do come through, but at the time, like we're we were able to just nothing changed. We just functioned like a normal day, and it actually did not impact our center like it would have once upon a time. It was business as usual for us. We just had
yeah,
to make more outbound calls. That was it. I mean, like no skin off our nose. That was easy enough. But there's been, full state outages where they've been impacted. And because of that technology that we have available today, they've been able to is it a little annoying? Yes, but they're able to function and operate and get help to the citizens. And that's all you can hope for. But like, I
right.
remember days where we were like down, and it was, like you said, driving to another town and hoping that and also having to get on the phone, get your calls rolled over. Like, that's a process that takes time.
That's
And it's,
right.
and while it will automatically roll, like your 911 systems are set up to function in that ability, but to do it so that it's not a delay, you have to call, you have to know your numbers, your IDs, you have to
Run to
be
the
able to
back
get.
and flip the switch.
Yeah, it was a totally different time, and now it's like everything's just seamless. And with the integration of real-time interoperability, it's even more like, if something could be seamless, and then something, I don't know what is the next layer of, like, it's smooth, like there's nothing that there's it's such a smoother word. I don't think that's a word. Is that a word? It's just so much different now.
It
it's
works.
it works. It's gonna be, it's my word if it's not a word. Somebody out there can tell me it's a word.
So, going into the wrap up of this, we've hit our 30 here, but we wanna wrap this up with something. Towards the end of this episode, you see kind of a pan shot of all the chaos that is going on, and the main charge nurse, what's her name again?
Dana,
Dana, okay, who's awesome. She is talking to
everybody
Dr.
needs a
Rob.
Dana.
Yeah, yeah. She's talking to Dr. Robbie, and, she goes, "So, do you think that you're gonna be able to leave at the end of the shift?" Because he's looking around, and she sees that he's looking around, and everything that he's been doing, she's been observing and observing everyone. And, he says, "Maybe, if I can leave with all of this, being the way it is, I don't know." And she goes, "Well, we have everyone here. You just have to let us do it. You have to let us take it over." And we were talking about this as it's almost like when we start a phone call, domestic, barricaded gunman, whatever it may be, and someone comes to relieve us, and you're like, "No, I'm not leaving yet. I'm not leaving until I'm done with this call." And for some of us, because I know I've done it before, and people that I've worked with, and I'm sure you have too, it might not even be the call. It might be the situation alone, depending on how long it is, right? If you got places to go, you might leave. But I know I've stayed just to see it out, but also to see if I need to help. And that's what like Dr. Robbie is doing as well. But she's like, you need to just go. You need to let us take this over. What are your thoughts on that part as we close out on this?
We talked about it right after the episode ended. I mean, and so it ends on a pretty, like, there's an assault happening, and she's by herself, and she's a young nurse, and she's new, and like, you leave on these cliffhangers. And that's the same thing that happens for us in dispatch, right? Is it's like we very rarely get the completion. And we already know our folks are burnt out, short staffed, whatever that might be, but like, there's something to be said about seeing it through to the end. And while it may not be the most perfect closure, it's at least something that we feel that we can control, right? Like I started this call, and especially if there's like major events. I mean, how many times does something step off, 15 minutes before the end of your shift and it's like a fire call? How many of us are really going to be like, I'm out, like none of us, because none of us are designed that way. We want to make sure that we see it through to completion. And you know, maybe not because of morbid curiosity, but more because we just need that for ourselves. That peace to like know that we saw it through to the end and supported each other in that environment. Like we didn't just leave it we didn't hand the leaky bag over and here you go, bye guys, and I think that's what he's worried about there too. But it's also that piece of like, he already knows his people are swamped. He already knows that they're taking on more, body traffic at this point from the failover from the other hospital. They're on divert, they've got their systems down, so like he feels this piece of responsibility to his team of humans that are in there that he's in charge of. So like I feel we struggle there too. Like we don't want to just turn that over, but like we also know everybody's in the same headspace, right? We're already burnt out. We're probably already working 16-hour days or, overtime on our days off. And it's like, at what point do we feel not confident? Because it's not confidence. It's like, where do we feel that it's okay to turn something over to the next shift where we feel like we're not just leaving it, like leaving the burning flames on their desk and walking out. So a lot of us stay and we stay in it, and for good or for bad, that's what happens. We're going to be there till the end.
That's how we do it.
That's how we roll.
And that, my friends, has been this week's episode of Most Important Seconds After the Pit. We will be back next week, same time, with some guests.
Same bat time, same bat channel with some guests. But
yes,
we have some guests coming in next Friday, so that's really exciting. And we're gonna keep you on your toes. Always try to bring back some people or bring some new people in. You never know.
That's right. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you all very much once again for joining us. I hope you have an excellent Friday. And again, shout out to Rapid SOS, Safer Together, the leading AI company in public safety. And also, if you have not done so, you can also check out The Pit. Season 2 is running right now. Every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time is when a new one pops up, and that is streaming on HBO Max. For any other information on Rapid SOS, you can check them out, rapidsos.com, and also social media. And I just saw your message. Go ahead.
Innovation Day.
That's right.
Innovation Day is here, everybody. So next month, April 29th, register. If you go to rapidsos.com, the banner at the top, there's a register button. You can find out what's new in AI. Please sign up, check it out. Even if you are not in the field, learn about it. AI is not as scary as you think it is. And you'll learn what the safety network is and how you are probably already on it and how it is being used today with Rapid SOS and the technology that's out there. So make sure you sign up and register, and make sure you follow us on Instagram, because we are moving things over to the Instagram level. So
boom.
get there.
Have a good one, everyone. We will see you all in the next one.